So the last couple of weeks kind of suck. We lost our biggest customer who accounted for 5% of our revenue and was with us for 2 years. And the thing that really hurts me the most is that this customer was vocal and told us what he was missing. So I'm going to share a framework we've been using at June called the LowFloor Setting that actually led us to not prioritize this kind of feedback and today that is damaging us. And I want to share, why sometimes it works, and then what are some of the pitfalls that you should probably avoid. So just to give a bit of context, people are using June really to get, the most simple product analytics for the B2B SaaS and make decisions. But recently we started to attract a lot more mid-market enterprise, and they've wanted a lot more flexibility in their analytics to make the analytics customized to their needs. For instance, they want to customize their home. And the reason why it took us so long is because we use a framework called the LowFloor Setting, which I'm going to go through. And then I'm also going to share what I think are the risks and the pitfalls of using it. So in case you're interested, this might be relevant for your business. So LowFloor means that your product is extremely simple to start being used. For instance, Shazam, you just install the app, click on the button and Shazam a song. On Google, you can just type the search and start typing and click enter. And for Uber, you just click the word to and put the address where you're going to go. So there's basically almost no knowledge needed to get started. B2B SaaS like Notion really killed it. They get you started with the product by learning by doing. In this case, they give you a checklist and you already move the blocks, tick the boxes, and really understand how it's being used. This is great to get people hooked into your product very quickly. Yet in B2B SaaS and for also other consumer products, it's usually not enough. You need to also solve more problems over time for people to remain with you. So another example I have is going back to Shazam. You can of course Shazam a song, but you can also find more about the artist or even the venue nearby. With Google, you can of course search for a couple of words or questions you have, but you can also find some piece of clothes that someone has on the picture by just long pressing. And the Notion example, you can just focus on the list or even like a table, but actually there are many, many ways you can go further. So in a table, for instance, you have 7 ways to edit the view of the table database, which is behind. And this doesn't really get into the way. It's very subtle. You don't see these red dots unless you really care about editing stuff. You really focus on the list. So the great product out there are what we call LowFloor Setting. They're easy to get started with and they don't get into your way. But if you want to go further, they let you do it. So this is a strategy really we took at June. And I wanted to outline 2 risks that I think are very, very important. So the first risk when you use this framework is if you start with the selling, to basically build a product which is too complex. So starting with the selling is usually where people start, just because this is where you have the most value to capture, the most sophisticated customers with the bigger needs, usually the more willingness to pay too. There is a great book called The Innovator Dilemma. If you haven't read it, there is a couple of pages around that, and I really recommend to check them out. This is why I believe the most successful BI tool in the world, which is Looker, looks a bit hard to use, in my opinion, a bit clunky. Not for everyone, but for many of us. So we knew that when we started June, and kind of like our insight was analytics and data visualization tools in general are too hard to use. So let's move away as much as we can from them. And so we started with the low floor of the product. So being able to really get your analytics automatically generated with one click. Now there is one risk that I want to mention with the low floor that we felt into. So actually there are 3 risks, but they fit together. The first risk is that you never manage to put it out. You never manage to build a low floor, you throw all the resources at the problem, and you never manage to make a product which is self-serve, that is easy to use, and that people can actually get a quick value out of. The second risk is that actually you manage to do it, but no one really cares about. Real estate is a good example. Would you buy a $1 million apartment without meeting the agent or visiting the apartment? Would you just go on the platform and throw your money on the marketplace to buy such a big such a big investment? Probably not. I wouldn't. The last one is the risk we felt into, the problem we felt into, which is that you fall in love with the bottom of the market, you fall in love with the low floor. And so I think this is what happened to June. Over time, as we built more the muscle for the low floor and started to collect so many problems that people wanted to fix, to get started with analytics, we really started to build the brand, the positioning, the ICP, everything we understood. and we've kind of lost of sight a little bit the higher setting and the top, the top of the market. So at some point, I would even say that we were scared to go into this realm because we felt that we would complexify the product. By the way, this was a little bit amplified by our meetings with investors because a lot of them were challenging us on how we would break through the limitation of building something simple, or what they call the graduation problem. So again, that was a mistake. For those of you that stayed with us until now, I want to say a big thank you for staying for so long. We are addressing these challenges now. We're breaking through the roof and adding a lot of flexibility in the product. For those of you that didn't consider June because it seems too simplistic, I think this is going to change in the coming weeks. So I'm really excited to make this happen, and hopefully this will be convincing enough for you this time. And if any of you are struggling with some of these challenges of starting low and going high, now you know that you're not alone. We have exactly the same, and I bet a lot of SaaS have the same challenges. I hope the kind of the pitfall we felt into would be inspiring and will help you avoid a similar situation. Thanks so much for listening, and if we don't see each other before summer, enjoy summer and talk very soon. Cheers.